The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Charnwood again, and all this week we're going to be taking on another 5 out here in this bit of Leicestershire. Now to begin proceedings this week, I'm on a playing field, quite a big playing field at that. Look at this, you see, got some football nets over there, some cricket paraphernalia over there. Looks like there's a few sporting activities that take place here, and it's all anchored by the building you can see behind me right there. You'll find this playing field in the parish of Wymeswold. Wymeswold, Wyman's Wood. All this week on TVI, we're back in Leicestershire, and once again we're in Charnwood. Welcome to Wymeswold to kick things off. This is a lovely village that sits among the soft and gentle hills of the Leicestershire Wolds. The name Wymeswold comes from the Old English Wyman's Wold, literally meaning Wyman's Wood. That in itself dates the village back to Saxon times, so today we're exploring over 1,000 years of recorded history. Wymeswold appears clearly in the Domesday Book, where it's shown as a large settlement of 39 households, placing it in the top 20% of English villages at that time. This early size shows that Wymeswold was already important agriculturally. The Domesday entry also reveals a complex manorial structure. The land was divided among 4 major Norman landowners: Hugh of Grandmesnil, Roger of Bully, Durand Mallet and Robert of Jort. Before the conquest, 2 Saxon brothers held the land. By the medieval period, Wymeswold had grown into a thriving rural scene. In the 1330s, Richard de Willoughby, one of the local lords, received a royal charter to hold a weekly market and an annual fair in June, and Wymeswold became a trading place. There are some great features here today, including St Mary's Church, a Grade 1 listed building dating back to the 1100s. It was beautifully restored in the 1840s by the famous architect Augustus Welby Pugin. Now there's a name we know well. Wymeswold has a rich religious heritage beyond the church. The village contains several historic chapels, including an 18th century Baptist chapel and 2 19th century Methodist chapels, all Grade 2 listed buildings. The village also has a fascinating industrial past. In the 1920s, Wymeswold was a centre of Stilton production, with 6 dairies making the famous cheese. In the 1980s, the village was even considered as the home of the new Limeswold cheese, though production later moved elsewhere. RAF Wymeswold, built during the Second World War, is another important part of the parish's story. Although the airfield is no longer used for flying, the runway survives, but it's not actually within the boundaries here. We'll see it tomorrow instead. The village has produced several notable people. Henry Alford, a famous theologian and hymn writer, served as vicar from 1835 to 1853. Other notable figures include geologist Thomas Green, the broadcaster John Shaw, and the speedway rider Ivor Brown. Let's see who's here today. Let's get this walk going at the sports area here in Wymeswold, otherwise known as Burton Lane Playing Field. Wymeswold Cricket Club are based here. The club runs adult training every Thursday from May to September, and junior cricket sessions take place on Sunday mornings. The cricket ground offers a peaceful rural setting that attracts visiting teams each year. Wymeswold Cricket Club sells official kit through Mad Dog Sport, including shirts and caps. As well as cricket, this is a village with a proud football heritage too. Wymeswold FC play in the Leicestershire County Football League. They field a large squad with more than 40 registered players every season. The club competes in county cup competitions such as the Westerby Group Saturday Trophy. Both clubs share the same green surroundings, giving Wymeswold a strong sporting identity. Together, the cricket and the football clubs make Wymeswold a lively place for sport lovers all year round. There's a lot more to this village than sport though, as we're about to see. Just north of the sports ground there's a small orchard. This is nice and all, but Wymeswold is actually famous for a much bigger one of these between the village and the A46. It's called Wymeswold Fruit Farm, and it was founded in 1973. Here's a bit more about that. The farm is a little out of the way for us to be going to here, but pictures from the internet show it to be a pretty cool place. The farm grows strawberries, raspberries, gooseberries and currants, all outdoors without polytunnels. Visitors can pick their own fruit from June to August every year. The orchard also offers pumpkin picking every October, with thousands of pumpkins available. It's all run by 4 generations of the same family, showing its long, local roots. And right next door to that fruit farm is another thing this village is very well known for. This is the Dogs Trust Centre, officially known as Dogs Trust Loughborough. It's one of the UK's most respected rehoming facilities, and you can find it at Hill Farm on Wide Lane. The Wymeswold site is designed from the ground up to give every dog the best possible start on their journey to a new home. The centre can care for up to 100 dogs across 80 kennels. It has specialist facilities such as hydrotherapy, which supports dogs that are recovering from injury. Public reviews consistently praise the centre's friendly, knowledgeable staff and the high standard of care they provide. Many visitors note how well the dogs are looked after, with staff going above and beyond to ensure each animal feels safe and loved. In 2024 alone, the centre helped 404 dogs find homes. The adoption process is structured. Potential adopters can browse the centre Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday from 12 until 4 p.m. Wednesday and Friday mornings are reserved for pre-arranged appointments. Okay, by some margin, this is the biggest village I'm doing this week. There's quite a lot to take in here, so we better get on with it. There's a lot to see around Wymeswold. The good thing about this one though is you can walk it in a neat little circle. The layout of the roads is quite helpful. We can get around it pretty easily. So, which way are we going to go at the end of this road? We're going that way. Back in the village again, next we come to Wymeswold Pharmacy, located at number 2A Houghton Road in the centre of the village. It's an independent business that provides the locals with NHS services. Its opening hours are Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We've wandered to the Memorial Hall now, which stands on Clay Street. As the name suggests, this was originally built as a memorial to the local men who died in the First World War. Ever since, its purpose has always been to provide a meeting place for everyone. It includes a main hall, some meeting rooms, and something called the Jubilee Room, which is upstairs. Access to that is provided by a lift, which makes getting to the upper floor easier for those who can't manage stairs. The hall was extended in 2000 to add more rooms and improve facilities. It can seat up to 150 people for large events. One of the meeting rooms can seat 50 people, whilst a third, smaller room seats 36 and a fourth seats 8. The hall hosts a local playgroup, but otherwise this is used for things like weddings, parties and exercise classes. The hall also serves as a polling station during elections. Outdoor facilities include a bowling green, and that's next. Wymeswold Bowls Club sits behind the Memorial Hall and offers bowling for all ages and abilities, making it a friendly place for both beginners and experts. The club's green is rated as one of the best playing surfaces in the whole of Leicestershire. The fans have their fill today. Here's Wymeswold's allotments. These have a long history linked to some village charity land on London Lane. They were created using a bequest from Daniel Ballard in 1640 to help Wymeswold's poor villagers. Ballard's £50 gift was originally meant as a loan fund, but was later used to buy land which stretched from Clay Street through to London Lane, forming the allotment site. The first anniversary of the allotments was celebrated in 1844 with a dinner of roast beef and pudding. So, the allotments you've just seen there are on a footpath which is around the side of the Memorial Hall, and it leads to our next street down there, you see. We're going to take a right turn there and talk a bit about the primitive Methodist chapel that Wymeswold used to have. Wymeswold has a strong history of nonconformist worship, including Methodist, Baptist and Quaker groups. The first Wesleyan Methodist chapel in Wymeswold was built in 1801 at the junction between Stockwell and Brook Street. A primitive Methodist chapel was built on London Lane in 1829 and 1830, and it's the site of that you're looking at here. It was built not long after the first official primitive Methodist meeting in Wymeswold in 1818. This chapel seated around 300 people, according to an 1851 report. Joseph Roworth, a local farmer, managed the primitive Methodist chapel in the mid-1800s. It held afternoon and evening services at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the 1830s and 1840s. It was eventually sold in 1894 after attendance declined and trustees moved away. The building would then become a cheese factory before being demolished in 1989. Stilton was made here, although Wymeswolders had their own version, which they dubbed Limeswold cheese. Production of that has since moved away from the village. Wymeswold's Old Pinfold is next to visit, and this stands on the northern side of Rempston Road, or the A6006 if you will. We already know a lot about these things, so we won't dwell on it too much. Nearly every English village once had a pinfold, but not all of them survive. Wymeswold's pinfold is built of brick, which helped it survive into modern times. It was used before the 18th century, when open fields had no fences to control animals. Parish records from 1629 show money spent on lime for earlier pinfold structures. Wymeswold's pinfold has been photographed regularly since 1991 to record its condition. It's smaller than some others in the region, such as Scarrington's 24-foot example. Nonetheless, it's a charming historic feature that adds character to Wymeswold's roadside. No stray animals these days, but I suppose you can sit in here yourself and watch the world go by. There's not really a lot to see from it, to be honest with you, apart from this road. And in the other direction, you have a new estate these days. I'll just show you that too. It's called Storkett. There it is. And that's basically what you find at the pinfold. Our next job is to go down there. Now we come to the Three Crowns, a historic village pub located at 45 Far Street. The pub dates back to the late 18th century, giving it over 200 years of history. It stands directly opposite St Mary's Church, making it a central village landmark. Its official website confirms it offers rooms for overnight stays, as well as food and drink. Camera describes the pub as a friendly village local with open fires and a beamed ceiling. The pub has a cosy split-level snug and lounge, adding to its traditional charm. There are many reasons to come to the Three Crowns, especially if you like your food. Tuesday evenings feature a chip van from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. outside the pub. Wednesday is pizza night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Thursday offers burger nights on alternate weeks. Wymeswold has a village shop, which is right next to the church. It goes by the name Gugger Granville's, a humorous reference to the brilliant UK sitcom Open All Hours. One of Wymeswold's key local businesses, it provides essentials for locals and is ideal for walkers and cyclists who are just passing through. The shop's simple layout makes it quick and convenient for customers. Visitors enjoy Granville's because it feels like a classic English village store. And to be fair, it even looks like one too, doesn't it? Let's skip past it to the church. St Mary's Church sits on some rising ground at the centre of Wymeswold village. It's a Grade 1 listed building, meaning it's of immense national importance. It's been a place of Christian worship for over 800 years. The building is mainly 14th and 15th century medieval architecture, but it was extensively restored between 1844 and 1846 by Augustus Welby Pugin, the famous Gothic Revival architect. Pugin's work at St Mary's is considered one of his most complete surviving church restorations. The church has a dedicated team of bell ringers who ring before services. St Mary's has a good set of bells used for weddings and special events. It also contains a fully restored organ, completed in recent years. Electric lighting was installed in 1927 before major repairs took place in the 1950s, 1980s, 1990s and early 2000s. The church received a National Lottery Heritage Fund grant in 2025 to repair the nave roof. Visitors can download a brief guide and walking tour from the Wymeswold Heritage website. A children's quiz guide is also available. With its history, architecture and peaceful setting, St Mary's is one of Wymeswold's greatest treasures. Okay, parish notice board sign, which is just in front of the church and beside the shop, so we'll get this out of the way. There we go. TVI has been to Wymeswold. Later around this route we'll see the school, but that's a modern successor to a Victorian village school whose early history is recorded in the Wymeswold school logbooks. The earlier school served local children throughout the 19th century. Education in Wymeswold is documented as far back as the early 1800s, showing a long tradition of learning here. Early lessons focused on reading, writing and scripture, typical of rural schools at the time. This old school was linked to the Church of England, a tradition continued by today's modern incarnation. The school building had large windows to let in natural light, which was a common Victorian design feature. Many Wymeswold families sent several generations of children to the old school. It was supported by village charities, which helped poorer children access education. The building later became too small for modern teaching needs, leading to the creation of the new school. Next, we've got the Hammer and Pincers, located at number 5 East Road. This is a restaurant which holds 3 AA rosettes, showing its high culinary standard. The building once served as the village forge, a fact hinted at by an old water pump which still sits behind the building. The restaurant is listed in the 2025 Michelin Guide, whose inspectors describe it as a brightly decorated, intimate restaurant with a warm service. The menu here is seasonal, using fresh ingredients to create modern British dishes. One signature dish is the beef Wellington, carved at the table for added theatre. The restaurant can also offer you boutique bedrooms, ideal for visitors exploring the Leicestershire Wolds. TripAdvisor lists the restaurant with a 4.7 rating from over 1,000 reviews. So as we mentioned earlier, nonconformist worship was popular here. Before the Methodists came along, the Baptists were also active in Wymeswold. In fact, they were here before 1651, when two members attended a Midlands conference. Baptist meetings in the 1670s were held several times a week in Remston, which is linked with Wymeswold despite being over the county border. The early meetings were illegal conventicles, and worshippers risked fines or prison. After the Act of Toleration in 1689, Wymeswold quickly established a legal Baptist meeting place. The main meeting place was originally 71 Brook Street, which served as a Baptist meeting house in the 17th and 18th centuries. This is the Baptist chapel that most people around here will know now. It was built in the 1780s and extended in 1847. There's a burial ground beside this that contains gravestones dating from 1715, oddly, to 1840. Only a few remain in their original positions due to ground disturbance over the years. The gravestones include beautiful slate carvings by the Winfield family, who were known local stonemasons. The main family names in the burial ground include Woodruff, Freer and Bissell. Okay, so most of the things you've seen there are all on the main street through the village, and you'll have noticed it's quite noisy. Well, now we're going to take ourselves to the south of the village, where hopefully it's a bit quieter. Now, to get between here and the south, we need to follow a footpath which begins here off Wysall Lane. So next we have the Windmill Inn at 83 Brook Street. This pub is part of the Blue Fox Pub Company, which also runs the Ruddington Arms and the Plough Inn. It offers a cosy bar area, a restaurant, a private function room, and it's all tied together with a sunny terrace. The pub has a secret garden with outdoor benches too, perfect for warm days. I guess it's not so secret though, now that I've told you about it, right? Dogs are welcome in the bar area here, and the pub provides water and treats for them. TripAdvisor lists the windmill with a 4.3 rating from over 400 reviews, and Slurpee rates the windmill 89 out of 100 based on more than 1,900 of them. It takes its name, by the way, from an actual windmill which Wymeswold used to have, but that no longer stands. So now we come to Wymeswold C of E Primary School, also on Brook Street, which is the modern successor to the old school we saw earlier. This is a voluntary controlled Church of England school serving ages 4 to 11. It has a capacity of 156 pupils, making it a small village school. Current pupil numbers are around 115 to 118 children, depending on the year. The school has a strong Christian ethos supported by the Diocese of Leicester, and it's rated good by Ofsted. The school promotes 4 core values: dream, believe, learn, achieve. Wymeswold runs a popular forest school programme encouraging outdoor learning, and it also has a before and after school club called Superstars, which operates from 7:30 AM to 6 PM. Interestingly, Wymeswold also has an international link with the Army Public School in Bangalore, India. Wymeswold Methodist Church is next, a Grade 2 listed building on the Stockwell. This was the first Methodist chapel to be built in the village back in 1801, as we mentioned earlier. It was enlarged in 1827 to serve a growing congregation in the village. The land this is built on used to be owned by Thomas Fox, and when it was constructed, it formed part of the Derby Circuit in the early years of Methodism. Wymeswold joined the Loughborough Circuit in 1802. The church has strong ecumenical links with St Mary's Parish Church, despite being a place of nonconformism. 3 joint services with St Mary's take place every month. The church has a flexible worship space suitable for different service styles. The building includes a fully fitted kitchen, and access to the upper floor is provided by a stair lift. Weekly groups include Warm Welcome, which offers tea, crafts and conversation. A monthly coffee morning takes place on the first Saturday of every month. Our final task here is to take a look at Queen's Park, which is a small triangle of grassland close to Wymeswold Methodist Church. Only a short walk away, in fact. Although small, this piece of land is used for recreation and enjoyment, especially in the summer. It's an ideal spot to tie this all together. So it might not be the biggest patch of green you ever did see, but it is a nice place to tie this one all together. From here it's a simple case of making our way back to the car, and to do that we just have to keep following the road. The pharmacy, which you saw earlier, that's in the distance over there. We'll take a left turn there and head up back towards the playing field. That's Wymeswold, folks. Wymeswold leaves a strong impression as we roll out towards the next village. Here you experience a place full of life, history and friendly charm. You can feel the centuries in its churches, its old school buildings and even in the layout of its streets. Yet it's also a place buzzing with modern energy. One moment you're standing in Queen's Park listening to birdsong, the next you're learning about John Wesley's early followers or admiring the craftsmanship of a Grade 1 or Grade 2 listed building. Wymeswold is the kind of village where history feels alive, where people wave as you pass and where even the ducks have some sort of sporting ambition. It's a place worth returning to, preferably with wellies though, if you come in the wintertime.
By the Methodist chapel where the morning star and the bells of St. Mary's echo straight to the heart. Kids race past their heads rose on their way to school, down to the primary where the days are golden and full. From the pinfold stones to the Bowls Club green, every corner holds a memory we've all seen. Oh, Wymeswold, you're the song we keep. From the windmill into the Three Crowns beat. Raise a glass at the hammer and pincers tonight, where the stories grow long and the laughter feels right. With Stilton dreams and Wymeswold pride, you're the village that lives in the heart of ours. And this shop with its creaking door, where we'd spend our coins and always come back for cricket club cheers drift across the green. The thunder sends fate soft and serene. Oh, Wymeswold, you're the song we keep. From the windmill into the Three Crowns beat. Raise a glass at the hammer and pincers tonight, where the stories grow long and the laughter feels right. With Stilton dreams and Wymeswold pride, you're the village that lives in the heart of our lives. In the memorial hall where the dances play, generations gathered, promises made, and every lane whispers tales untold of the people who shaped this village of old. Oh, Wymeswold, you're the song we keep. From the chapel steps to the bowls club green. Raise a glass at the hammer and pincers tonight, where the stars over Leicestershire burn so bright. With Stilton dreams and Wymeswold pride, you're the village that lives in the heart of our lives.
Hello folks, welcome back to Charnwood again for episode number 2 this week, and number 13 I think it is overall now. Now in this one we're going to be exploring a much smaller village than Wymeswold that we saw yesterday, but this one does have a few links to Wymeswold, the biggest one being what's behind that field over there where those horses are. Over there is RAF Wymeswold, and at the end of this episode we will be checking that out. We have a village to look at first though, and here it is. Welcome to the parish of Houghton. Houghton, farm on a hill. Today on TVI we're in Houghton in Charnwood, which sits just south of the Nottinghamshire border. It lies on the A60 between Loughborough and Nottingham. The name Houghton was originally spelled Houghton, and most historians believe it comes from Old English. It simply means either a hill settlement or farm on a hill. This simple origin suits the landscape, as the parish sits on gentle rising ground with wide views across the Leicestershire Wolds. Although Houghton is small today, the area has roots that stretch back to early English history. Houghton appears in the Domesday Book as part of the Prestwold estate. After the Norman conquest, the land was held jointly by Robert de Jort and Earl Hugh. The Domesday entry shows that Houghton was already a working agricultural place, though modest in size. During the medieval period, Houghton remained a small farming settlement. Records show only 11 households in the 1300s and 9 in 1564. These numbers help paint a picture of a quiet, rural parish where life moved at a gentle pace. The manorial story of Houghton changed in the 18th century when Charles James Pack II from the Prestwold estate bought Houghton Manor House. His investment encouraged new building and helped shape the village's later growth. The Pack family became important local landowners, and their influence can still be seen in several listed buildings. In the 1800s, Houghton had an alehouse, an inn, and 2 girls' boarding schools. Many old wooden cottages were replaced with brick at around the same time. Wymeswold Road in Houghton now has several listed cottages, many dating from the 18th century, with timber framing still visible in places. Holly Tree Farmhouse and its 17th century barn are especially attractive to visitors who enjoy rural architecture. One of Houghton's most important landmarks is the Church of St Leonard. Although the church has medieval origins, it was largely rebuilt in 1834 by the Pack family. The church contains wood panelling and a royal arms, adding to its charm. Although Houghton is small, it has links to other notable local families, but the Packs remain at its core. They shaped much of the landscape and the architecture here, their influence helping to turn Houghton into a tidy, well-kept parish with attractive buildings. Today, Houghton offers a blend of history, rural beauty, and traditional English charm. Its listed cottages, historic church, and scenic surroundings make it a lovely place to explore. Anyone visiting Leicestershire's Wolds will find Houghton a rewarding stop. We have a rather unorthodox opening landmark today, and that would be a burial ground. Officially recorded as Houghton Burial Ground on Findergrave, that lists 318 memorials at this site. This makes it a surprisingly rich place for such a small village. The site is also known as St Leonard's Churchyard. This link to the church helps explain why the burial ground holds graves from different periods of Houghton's past. Many visitors enjoy exploring the older stones, which give clues to the village's long history. The Church of St Leonard in Houghton isn't far away. This is a Grade 2 listed building whose medieval origins make it one of the oldest structures in the parish. Visitors often admire the tower, which dates from the early 1300s. The Wolds Historical Organisation explains that the church closed for worship in 1987, but the tower and exterior remain an important landmark. The frozen clock faces are a well-known feature for anyone passing through this village. The tower is built of coursed rubble with an embattled parapet, showing the craftsmanship of the early medieval period. The nave and the chancel were rebuilt in the 18th and 19th centuries, giving the church a mix of styles. The chancel was rebuilt in 1834 by the Pack family of Prestwold using Charnwood granite. That gives the church a solid and handsome appearance. There are Gothic windows here, along with a canted apse, which add elegance to the structure. Inside, the church contains a west gallery with wood panelling and a royal arms. Although the church is no longer used for regular worship, these features remain part of its heritage. Anyone visiting today can still sense the long story of faith and village life that shaped this very building. Yeah, this is a bit of a weird setup here. Because the church is now private property, obviously we can't go into the churchyard, but they've left this space open so that you can still access the burial ground. And if you look here, the path actually turns past the church. There's the church there, and then the majority of the burial ground is actually down there, you see, and it's separated from the church by a hedge. Very unusual setup, but it seems to work. Next we come to the Pack Arms, which stands on Rempston Road. This is one of Houghton's most popular places to visit, with over 1,000 reviews on TripAdvisor. The pub is known for its warm welcome and traditional food. The pub was once called the Marquis of Granby in the 18th century. The earlier name links it to a famous military figure of the time. The change to Pack Arms came later, honouring the Pack family of Prestwold. A date stone above the entrance reads 1831 CJP, marking the restoration carried out by Charles James Pack. That now gives the building a clear historical identity. Visitors often enjoy spotting that detail as they enter. The Pack Arms is praised for its gardens, cask ales and seasonal dishes. The menu includes classic dishes such as fish and chips and Sunday roasts. Whether someone wants a quiet drink or a full meal, the Pack Arms offers a warm and inviting setting. So the Pack Arms was like a little detour there to the north, because generally speaking we're heading towards the southwest here. You see behind me in the middle of the village, that's the absolute dead centre of Houghton, and if we head to the southwest this way, you go along this road here, Loughborough Road, and along here is where you find the village hall, and that's next. The village hall here is a shared affair between Houghton, Cotes and Prestwold. It sits on Loughborough Road and offers a single large room with barn-style features, giving it a warm and traditional look. It also has French doors leading to a large grassed outdoor area. The hall can seat around 80 people for formal events according to the parish council's booking guide. This makes it suitable for weddings, talks, fitness classes and parties. The size is perfect for visitors who want a venue that feels personal but still spacious. The kitchen is fully equipped with a microwave, a fridge, a freezer, a dishwasher and a gas oven. It also includes crockery and cutlery for about 100 people, making catering simple. The hall includes full blackout facilities, a TV licence and a projector for hire too. Houghton's former Wesleyan Methodist chapel was first built in 1813. It originally offered 80 free seats and 40 paid seats. John Wesley himself visited Houghton in 1770 and 1772, meeting the Angrave family who helped establish Methodist preaching in this village. That early link gives the chapel a special place in Methodist history. Visitors today can still see the building that replaced the original chapel. This was built in 1877, offering space for 135 people, as recorded in Wesleyan accommodation returns. This larger building served as a key place of worship for many decades, but the membership was never large, with records showing no more than 12 members at its peak. Even so, it held regular services, including a well-attended evening service in 1851 with 44 people present. The chapel closed in 1930 and was sold in 1938, ending more than a century of Methodist worship in Houghton. Today the building survives as a reminder of the village's religious past. Let's move on to the playing field. Okay, now we've got a longish walk to undertake between the chapel and the playing field, and to get between the two we have to use Prestwold Road, which is what this road is here, and we need to turn left up there to reach the playing field. Now this playing field is one of the most unusual you will ever find in the whole country. It's because it's split into areas which have all got a letter of the alphabet. It's a very unusual thing to find out about when I researched this. Let's go check it out and see what it looks like. Houghton playing field is officially divided into 10 zones, each with a clear purpose. These include areas for play, sport, wildlife and gardening. This layout makes the field one of the most varied small parks in the region. The zones are all identified by letters of the alphabet. Zone B, for example, is a children's play area for ages 0 to 6, whilst Zone C contains a trim trail for older children and adults, designed to encourage exercise and movement. The field also includes a tennis court and multi-sport area in Zone G, suitable for ages 5 and up. This hard surface is ideal for ball games in all seasons. It gives the village a valuable sports facility that many small parishes lack. Zone H is a wildflower meadow designed to support local plants and wildlife. The natural area adds colour and interest throughout the year. The mix of sport, nature and open space makes this playing field a pleasant place for visitors of all ages. Check this sign out. Be aware of pedestrians. Well, if car drivers have any kind of sense, it won't be a problem anyway. There's a path here, so unless they're mounting the curb, I don't think I've got anything to worry about. Anyway, this is Vine Tree Terrace and it takes us back to the centre of Houghton, at which point we'll take a right turn and head back down towards where I've parked the car. We actually started at the burial ground. I've still got to capture some of the houses along that road yet. Anyway, when we reach the car, we are then going to hop in it and drive down to the airfield and see what that's all about. With the village behind us, let's now move our attention to the huge landmark that lies to the south of it. This is the former RAF Wymeswold, which opened on the 16th of May 1942 during the height of the Second World War. It served as a major RAF satellite station. It sits between Houghton, Wymeswold and Burton on the Wolds, making it one of the most accessible wartime sites in Leicestershire. Wellington bombers flew from here, which were used for leaflet dropping missions over Germany, known as nickel operations. RAF Wymeswold was built with 3 runways, the longest being 1,830 metres. Long and solid, they allowed heavy aircraft to operate safely in all weathers. Today, the runways remain visible and are used for driving experiences and other leisure activities. In 1943, the airfield also hosted Horsa glider towing training, using Hampton aircraft to prepare for the D-Day landings. This gives the site a direct link to one of the most important operations of the war. Number 28 Operational Training Unit was the first major unit based here, training hundreds of aircrew between 1942 and 1944. Some of these crews took part in the famous 1,000 bomber raids. The station later switched to RAF Transport Command, training pilots to fly the Douglas Dakota. After the war, RAF Wymeswold became part of Fighter Command in 1949 and welcomed No. 504 Squadron with its Spitfire Mark 22s. That squadron later became the first Royal Auxiliary Air Force to receive the jet-powered Gloucester Meteor. Flying officially ended here in 1969 when Field Aircraft Services and the last training units moved out. Even so, the airfield quickly found new uses. Many of the old hangars became part of an industrial estate. One of the most eye-catching modern features is the Wymeswold Solar Farm, once the largest in Britain, built across part of the old airfield. It gives the site a surprising mix of old and new. Visitors can stand where Wellingtons once taxied and now see rows of solar panels instead. Today, RAF Wymeswold is popular for go-karting and driver training too, thanks to its preserved runways and hangars. The combination of wartime history and modern activity makes it a lively place to explore. As we leave Houghton, the village leaves a warm impression with its mix of old cottages, open fields and long history. Houghton also has a few quirks worth remembering, like the fact it once had 2 girls' boarding schools. There's so much here to love. Its old church clock famously stopped when the church closed, so it's always the right time for a walk here. Even the Pack Arms has a date stone from 1831, just in case you enjoy reading walls. Let's see what we can read tomorrow.
Church where the clock stands still, frozen hands watching over the hill. The old chapel whispers in the evening breeze, carrying stories through the hedgerow trees. And the village hall lights glow soft and low, where the dances and the memories flow. Oh, Houghton, you quiet little flame, from the back arms fire to the winding lanes on the playing field where the 10 zones lie. Kids chase dreams under loose strip skies. Houghton, you're the song I can't let go. A heartbeat in the fields I've always known. Out on the edge where the runways sleep, RAF Wymeswold lies silent and deep. But once the night road with etchings bright, Lancasters rising into black and light. They flew from here on those desperate days, part of the mighty 1,000 bomber raids. Courage carved in the cold night air, a legacy held by the village that's still there. Oh, Houghton, you quiet little flame, from the pack arms fire to the winding lanes on the bold grain field where the 10 zones lie. Kids chase dreams under Leicestershire skies. Houghton, you're the song I can't let go. A heartbeat in the fields I've always known. And the seasons turn like a gentle rhyme, marking every footstep every time. From chapel stones to the hall's warm glow, Houghton holds the tales we'll always know. Oh, Houghton, you quiet little flame, where the past and the present call my name on the playing field where the 10 zones lie. Hope runs free beneath the open sky. Houghton, place I call home.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Charnwood for another episode. Now we won't be long in this place because you can be around this pretty quickly. I'm starting this one on a boundary. You can see where my car is parked there. That is actually the boundary between this parish and the town, the University Market town no less, of Loughborough. And linking the two, there's a bridge. Let me show you the bridge. There it is. Now that bridge is on the A60 here, and it connects Loughborough to Nottingham. Now for centuries that bridge has been very important. It was even so important that it was fought over during the English Civil War in 1644. Welcome to Coates. Cotes, cottages. Today we're in Cotes, which takes its name from the Old English word cot, meaning simply cottages or small dwellings. This gives us a clue to its early character. It was a rural settlement made up of modest homes near the River Soar. The land around Cotes shows signs of very early activity. The Soar Valley was used by Romans, and the wider area has produced Roman finds. Its position on a river crossing makes it likely that travellers and traders passed through here long before written records began. The Domesday Book gives the first clear written record of Cotes. Listed as Cotes de Val, it had 4 households, small even by medieval standards. The land was held by the Bishop of Lincoln as tenant-in-chief, with Ralph of Kimcote as lord in 1086. During the medieval period, Cotes grew into a village with open field farming. By the late 1600s, however, the medieval village was abandoned. Some writers have suggested the plague was at fault, but most historians believe enclosure was the main cause. Cotes Bridge is one of the parish's most important landmarks. In 1644, during the English Civil War, a minor battle took place here when royalist forces captured the bridge on their way to Newark. Standing by the river today, you can imagine soldiers fighting for control of the crossing. One of the most interesting modern links Cotes has is with Baroness Nicky Morgan, the former MP for Loughborough. On entering the House of Lords, Morgan chose the title Baroness Morgan of Cotes, giving the parish a national presence. Visitors to Cotes today will find a place shaped by water. The River Soar winds through the parish, attracting wildlife and offering peaceful views. The bridge, the meadows and the quiet roads make it a pleasant stop for anyone exploring rural Leicestershire. Although the medieval village has disappeared, the land still holds clues. Earthworks, field shapes and old boundaries hint at where homes once stood. The roads around Cotes also tell a story. The A60 crosses the bridge on its way from Loughborough to Nottingham. Elsewhere, the B676 leads towards Burton on the Wolds. These routes follow older tracks that have guided travellers for a long time. Standing at the bridge, you can sense how important the crossing has been too. In recent years, Cotes has appeared in local news because of housing proposals nearby. While development continues around Loughborough, Cotes itself remains quiet and rural. From Saxon cottages to a Civil War skirmish, it offers far more history than its small size would suggest. As a riverside settlement, the Soar has always been very important to Cotes down the years. The first thing to cover, therefore, is Cotes Mill. This is a Grade 2 listed watermill beside the River Soar, and its recorded history goes back to the Domesday Book. This makes it one of the oldest documented sites in the area. Visitors today can still see the mill's long link with water power, as the building stands right on the riverbank where the mill race once ran. The mill building seen here dates mainly from the 16th century. Cotes Mill once formed part of the King's Mills of Loughborough, meaning people in the manor were expected to grind their grain there. That led to a long legal dispute in the 1600s when other millers tried to compete. The case lasted almost 100 years before ending in 1698. In 1810, the mill became part of the Prestwold estate, which shaped much of the land around Coates. Later, in 1980, it was bought by Everard's Brewery and turned into a pub and restaurant, giving it a new life as a place for visitors to enjoy food and drink. In 2012, the mill was purchased and restored by designer Paul O'Leary, who moved Devol kitchens into the building. Its limestone staircase even received national recognition when it was highly commended by the Stone Federation of Great Britain in 2014. Coates Bridge is arguably just as important as the mill. It crosses the River Soar and has been a key route for travellers for many generations. The A60 still uses the bridge today, carrying traffic between Loughborough and Nottingham. Writers such as Percy Russell noted that the route over Coates Bridge has been used for at least 900 years. The long causeway leading to the bridge crosses old meadowland that still shows signs of medieval farming. The bridge was the site of a minor battle during the Civil War on the 18th of March 1644. Royalist forces captured the bridge as they moved to relieve Newark. This event gives the bridge a dramatic place in national history, and the riverside setting helps visitors imagine the scene. The causeway leading to the bridge may be older than the bridge itself, according to the Victoria History of Leicestershire. Historians have suggested that early travellers built raised routes across marshy ground long before stone bridges were common. So here we've got the best view yet of the bridge as the road bends slightly to the left, and it bends into Coates Village. So far we haven't seen anything within the actual village itself because it's really small. Once you've turned the corner, Coates appears and you can be through this in under 5 minutes. Coates itself is a small hamlet with a population of about 50 people. Its small size gives it a quiet rural feel that appeals to visitors looking for peaceful countryside. The name Coates comes from the Old English word cot, which simply means cottages. This was once a much larger place. The medieval village of Coates was abandoned in around 1690. Some writers once suggested the plague was at fault for that, but most historians now believe enclosure was the main cause. Coates lies on two important routes, the A60 and the B676, which begins just east of Coates Bridge. These roads follow older tracks that have guided travellers for a long time. This makes the village a good starting point for walks or bike rides through the Soar Valley and the Leicestershire Wolds. The village is linked to national life through Baroness Nicky Morgan, who chose the title Baroness Morgan of Coates on entering the House of Lords. This unusual honour gives the small village a place in modern political history. It also draws attention to its long heritage. Okay, here's where I regret not putting my boots on, because for the rest of this one we need to be walking on a footpath and it ain't paved, let me tell you that. This crosses some very impressive earthworks which I've been able to see so far from the road. Well, now we've got to go over them and it'll take us back towards the bridge. So let's go into this field and see how muddy this is. Hopefully it's not too muddy, because like I say, I don't have my boots on. It's not too bad. So where were some of the village's older buildings? Well, the site of the old hall at Cotes sits above the River Soar, close to Cotes Bridge. It once held a grand house built in around 1580. Hearth tax records show that the hall had 29 chimneys, proving it was a major residence in the area. The hall was home to the Skipwith family, and William Skipwith was knighted by James I when he came to the throne. In 1645, King Charles I was entertained at the hall, giving the site another direct link to national history. In 1653, the hall passed to Sir Christopher Pack, a supporter of Cromwell and a former Lord Mayor of London. His grandson later abandoned the hall after a mysterious fire in the early 18th century, which left the building ruined. The remains of the hall's boundary walls are now Grade 2 listed and include fragments of English bond brickwork. There's also limestone rubble and some ashlar details visible too. The enclosure is around 70 yards square, showing how large the grounds once were. By the 1800s, writers such as John Nichols noted that large fragments of the hall still stood and the gardens were being rented to local gardeners. The old chapel at Cotes once stood close to the hall and served the people of the medieval village. A royal survey in 1552 listed its possessions, including a silver chalice, 2 bells, a cope and altar cloths. Nothing of the building survives above the ground today. The platforms where cottages and workshops stood around the chapel can still be seen on the ground. Those earthworks help visitors picture the small settlement that once gathered here. Walking across the site gives a sense of how the village was arranged before it was abandoned. Theories about the village's decline include the plague, as we already know, but there is a possibility that the chapel area was cleared to make way for new gardens around the hall. Today, the chapel site is a peaceful patch of raised ground near the river, surrounded by meadows and the remains of the old village layout. The earthworks, platforms and gentle slopes make it a pleasant place to explore on foot. Okay, I'm back to the road. Slightly wet feet, but I have had worse in my time. You know I have. So now we need to cross back over Cotes Bridge and then leave Cotes behind. There's really nothing more to tell you about this little place. Isn't it quite charming though, how it just sits here alongside the River Soar and just minds its own business, yet it still has all that history to talk about. As we roll away from Cotes and look back across the Soar Valley, it feels like one of those places that hides far more history than its size suggests. You've got a vanished hall which had 29 chimneys, a lost chapel with silver chalices, and a medieval village that simply faded from the map. As we leave Cotes behind, here's a quirky fact to take with you. The hall supposedly had so much ale left in its cellars after the fire that ghost stories may have started because people were sampling the leftovers. If that isn't the most haunting Leicestershire tale ever, I don't know what is.
Where the river Soar moves quiet and slow, Cotes Mill stands watching as the waters flow. Between Loughborough's lights and Nottingham's roar, there's a village with a heartbeat older than folklore. And the fields breathe stories the wind still keeps, of the ones who walked here and the ones who sleep. Oh, Cotes, you're a whisper on the Leicestershire plain, where the past walks beside us like a shadow in the rain. From the mill to the bridge, where the old ghosts roam, you're a place in the valley that feels like home. Under grass and time lies a village lost. Home was turned to earth by the centuries' cost. But the ridges and furrows still mark the land, silent fingerprints of a long gone hand. And if you listen close when the dusk winds sigh, you can almost hear the echoes passing by. Oh, Coates, you're a whisper on the Leicestershire plain, where the past walks beside us like a shadow in the rain. From the mill to the bridge, where the old ghosts roam, you're a place in the valley that feels like home. In 1634, the soldiers came, steel on the river and fire in their veins. The battle for Coates Bridge shook the valley floor as Parliament and Crown waged their civil war. Hooves and muskets in the cold night air, a clash that lingers in the silence there. And sometimes on a Sunday, walking slow, Baroness Nicky Morgan through the meadows below adds another chapter to the stories told, a modern thread in a tapestry old. Oh, Coates, you're a whisper on the Leicestershire plain, where the river remembers every joy and pain. From the medieval earth to the bridge's old scores, you're a village that carries the weight of the stars.
Hello folks, welcome back to Charnwood once again. Now in this episode we won't be able to see the main sort of event here because it's private. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here you can see we've got a low wall and behind that we have a lot of trees. Now we can walk through those trees but we can't quite get to what's behind them. It's a big hall, big mansion that's got ties to the Pack family, which we talked about in Houghton earlier this week. This is the parish of Prestwold. Prestwold, Priest's Wood. Today on TVI we come to Prestwold. Now the setting of this one feels calm and open, surrounded by farmland and long views, but Prestwold has a lot that's hidden away. The name comes from Old English. It's linked to the words priost and wold, giving it the meaning Priest's Wood. That suggests that the area may once have been connected with early religious land or woodland used by clergy. The name alone hints at a long and interesting past. Prestwold appears in the Domesday Book, where it's listed under two different land holdings. One entry records villagers, freemen and a smallholder, along with ploughland and meadow, under the control of Durand Mallet. Another entry links the area with Earl Hugh of Chester and includes details of mills, woodland, and a large number of tenants across several linked settlements. The manorial history of Prestwold is closely tied to Prestwold Hall, which has been the seat of the Pack family for many generations. The Packs became influential landowners, leaving a strong mark on the local buildings and stories. By the 19th century, Prestwold Hall belonged to Colonel W. Pack. Prestwold Hall itself is one of the great highlights for visitors here. The hall dates from at least 1560 and was rebuilt and enlarged in 1846, giving it the elegant form that we see today. It's Grade 1 listed and surrounded by some beautiful parkland. The hall is now well known as a venue for weddings, events and guided visits. It's one of the most attractive country houses in the region. Another key landmark is St Andrew's Church, a Grade 2 listed building with origins in the 13th century. Prestwold also has links to several notable historical figures. Sir Christopher Pack, born in around 1593, became Lord Mayor of London in 1654 and was a prominent merchant and political figure. George Hussey Pack served at Waterloo. He later played a major role in establishing the Great Northern Railway. Those connections give Prestwold a surprising national reach. Anciently, Prestwold's lands included Houghton, Cotes and Burton on the Wolds before boundary changes reduced its size in the 19th century. The earlier, larger parish shows how important Prestwold once was as a local centre of administration. Even today, the landscape still hints at these older links. Visitors today can enjoy more modern attractions as well. The best example is Prestwold Hall Circuit, which is a motorsport venue that offers driving experiences ranging from supercars to rally vehicles. Today, Prestwold remains a place where history, landscape and elegant architecture come together. Let's go and see it. Let's get going with what constitutes Prestwold Village, and it's not much. This here is the old school of Prestwold Village that has its roots in the early 19th century when a purpose-built girls' school was constructed on Prestwold Lane. It dates back to 1834. The building later became a Sunday school, so it had a religious purpose as well as an educational one. Prestwold's parish history shows that education in the area was linked closely with the Pack family, who were major landowners for over 300 years. Their influence helped shape the village we know today. Now, aside from the schoolhouse, all Prestwold really is a couple of cottages. So if you look here, you can see we've got a couple of houses there beyond the school, and then sort of after this, there's a whole lot of nothing. Prestwold Village doesn't really exist in the traditional sense. It's kind of a really small hamlet. Now, the main event here, like I said at the beginning, is on the other side of the road. Now, you can see there's a footpath there. That takes us through those trees. Let's go and explore what's down there. Let's see what else the Pack family shaped. Here we're walking through some parkland that's connected to the biggest and most important landmark here, Prestwold Hall. It stands within 2,500 acres of land, making it one of the most impressive private estates in Leicestershire. We are on a public footpath here though, so this is all legal. The park was first created in the 1760s by Charles James Pack, who rebuilt the hall and shaped the surrounding grounds. This makes the parkland an important example of 18th century landscape design. It's all trees here, but the grounds have fine features like formal gardens and terraces added in the 1840s by the architect William Burn, who remodelled the hall itself. Burn's work included the south terrace and the east lawn, which remain key features for visitors. Historic England lists the park and gardens as Grade 2 registered landscape. The park includes long avenues of trees, including a line of cedars that were already described as notable in 1780. Prestwold Hall's parkland is now often used for photographic backdrops at things like weddings. So if you follow this path, it feels like you're heading into the middle of nowhere. You're not, though. You're not heading into the middle of nowhere. You are heading towards Prestwold Hall. You just can't see it. Now here, you can see there's one of the entrance drives that leads to it. There's more than one. Now, we can cross this because we're still on the footpath. And if we do, it'll take us towards St Andrew's Church, which is also hiding within these trees. Again, you wouldn't know it was there unless you knew about it. But it's over there at the end. Can you see? There's a little opening. It's down there. Somewhat hidden away within all the trees is St Andrew's Church, a Grade 2 listed medieval building located beside Prestwold Hall. Visitors often enjoy the way the church sits among the trees and lawns near the hall, almost hidden in plain sight really. The oldest part of this church is the late 14th century West Tower, which gives the building deep historical roots. This makes St Andrew's one of the oldest surviving structures in the parish. Anyone interested in medieval architecture will find much to admire here. The church underwent major restorations in 1743 and 1890, with the latter funded by Mr Hussey Pack of Prestwold Hall. The 1890 work rebuilt the nave in the Perpendicular style, giving the church its present appearance. St Andrews serves the villages of Prestwold, Houghton, Burton-on-the-Wolds and Coates, forming part of the Barrow and Wolds group of churches. Regular Sunday services are held at 9:15 AM, making it an active place of worship today. Inside the church are several monuments to the Pack family, who have lived at Prestwold Hall for more than 350 years. The memorials help tell the story of the estate and its long-standing influence. Its quiet churchyard, historic stonework and elegant interior make this something of a hidden treasure. Okay, so the footpath that we've been using runs right through this churchyard. You can see here it goes down there and into the hills. Now I imagine if you are going to see Prestwold Hall from anywhere, it will be if you carry on along that footpath and look to your left. But if this is anything to go by, I don't think you can see it from there. You might be able to, but just to be on the safe side, I'm not going to go down there and get my feet all muddy, just because it may not be a good view and it might be pointless. So in that case, we will go straight to the pictures which I found from the internet. So here's a piece on Prestwold Hall which we can't see in the flesh owing to it being private. It's one of Leicestershire's most elegant country houses. Today the hall is both a private home and a popular venue for weddings and events. The earliest known owners of the estate were the Skipwith family, who held the property before the Pack family arrived. Although the original medieval house no longer survives in its early form, the site has been occupied for a very long time. Prestwold Hall entered a new era in 1649 when it was purchased by Sir Christopher Pack, the prominent London merchant and politician. Pack had served as Lord Mayor of London and was closely involved with Oliver Cromwell's government. After the restoration in 1660, he withdrew from public life and settled at Prestwold, where he lived until his death in 1682. His arrival marked the beginning of more than 350 years of Pack family history at the Hall. Sir Christopher Pack's political career was dramatic. He was one of the men nominated by Cromwell to form a new upper house, and he introduced the humble petition and advice, which offered Cromwell a hereditary monarchy. When the monarchy returned, Pack was barred from holding office, but he kept his estate at Prestwold. In the 1760s, the hall underwent major changes under Charles James Pack, who rebuilt the house and created the surrounding parkland. That period saw the rise of landscaped estates across England, and Prestwold joined this movement with sweeping lawns, tree avenues and carefully planned views. The next great transformation came in the 1840s when the hall was remodelled by the Scottish architect William Byrne. Byrne worked on the house between 1842 and 1844, giving it the neoclassical style seen today. His work incorporated the earlier 18th century structure, but he added new rooms, grander proportions, and a more refined architectural style. Inside the hall, Byrne created interiors with marbled plasterwork in the Italian style, which remain one of the building's most admired features now. Those rooms include the entrance hall, the dining room, and the library, each designed to impress guests with their scale and decoration. The hall also contains a collection of 18th century English and European furniture, as well as 20th century portraiture. Prestwold Hall's gardens were also shaped by Byrne. Before his redesign, the house stood on informal lawns with scattered trees. Burn, though, introduced symmetrical beds and formal planting, creating the structured gardens seen today. The gardens are now a favourite part of the estate for visitors, especially those attending weddings or photography sessions. The Hall's Grade 1 listing, awarded in 1951, confirms its national importance as a historic building. Prestwold Hall has also strong links to national events. Major Robert Christopher Pack, born in around 1783, served as aide-de-camp to King George III and was killed at the Battle of Waterloo. After his death, the estate passed to his nephew George Hussey Pack, who later became a director of the Great Northern Railway. Those connections tie Prestwold to both military and industrial history. The hall remained in Pack hands until 1956, when Penelope Mary Pack married John Drury Bottler Drury Low, bringing the Drury Low family into the estate's story. Today, the estate is still owned by the Pack Drury Low family, making it one of the longest-held family estates in the country. Its grand rooms, formal gardens and long driveways make it a popular choice for celebrations. The estate also includes modern attractions such as the Prestwold Driving Centre, where visitors can enjoy supercar experiences and motorsport events. That adds a lively contrast to the historic hall and the gardens, showing how the estate has continued to evolve. So that's Prestwold in the books. It may be tiny, but it carries a long story, from its doomsday roots to the grand estate that still shapes its landscape. Prestwold's population has stayed under 100 people in recent years, making it one of the quietest parishes in the county. That's rather incredible when you consider that the hall could tell so many stories, as could the Pack family themselves, actually. Their military, political and railway-related adventures could fill a whole bookshelf within their very home.
Where the long drive cuts through the Leicestershire gold, Prestwold Hall rises quiet and bold. St. Andrew stands watching with its ancient grace, a lantern of stone in a timeless place. And the cedars whisper stories, the centuries keep of the Pack family roots running strong and deep. Oh, Prestwold, you're a song in the fields where history breathes and the old world yields. From the hall to the church to the tracks fast call, you're the heart of the Wolds, Prestwold Hall. where the past stands firm and the present heals from pack to burn to the racer's call. You're the soul of the Wolds,
Hello folks, welcome back to Charnwood for the last episode this week. Now the reason I'm laughing there is because all morning I've been singing the song that you'll hear at the end of this video because it's kind of in my head. AI's done me a solid with this one, and I'm sure you'll all be singing it by the time we get to the end of this video. Where are we then? Well, we are in Burton on the Wolds. Burton on the Wolds, fortified village on the hills. Our last stop this week in Charnwood is Burton on the Wolds, which sits between the Roman Fossway and the River Soar, giving it a long connection to early travel routes and settlement patterns. Its name comes from Old English, bur meaning a fortified place and tun meaning a farmstead. In 1086, Burton appeared in the Domesday Book under the name Burtone. Its entries list multiple lords and tenants-in-chief, including Geoffrey of La Guerche and Durand Mallet, which show how the land was divided among Norman landholders after the conquest. During the medieval period, Burton became part of the estates of Garendon Abbey, a Cistercian monastery that owned large areas of farmland in the region. Sheep and cattle farming shaped the local economy for a very long time. The modern shape of the village began to form in the late 17th century when Samuel Shallcross acquired land and property that later became the Burton Hall estate. Burton Hall itself was built in around 1780 and became a key feature of the parish. Its grounds once included a road that was later diverted in 1818 to create a more private parkland. Speaking of road changes, in the early 19th century they reshaped the village. Plans by Charles Godfrey Mundy and Charles James Pack led to the creation of the present road layout. One of Burton's most charming landmarks is the Lion's Head Fountain on Melton Road. Built in the mid-19th century, it once provided clean water to residents, and it's now a Grade 2 listed structure. It remains a popular point of interest for visitors like me walking. During the Second World War, Burton played an important role in supporting RAF Wymeswold. The village housed the communal and living quarters for the airfield, and after the war, many of the huts were used to shelter Polish refugees. Burton also has a history of religious variety. A Methodist chapel was built here in 1809 by local residents who wanted a place of worship separate from the established church. It was rebuilt in 1846 and remained in use until 1998. Visitors today can also enjoy St Andrew's Church and a lively local sporting tradition thanks to the village football teams and the cricket club. Matches at Tolles Fields bring people together and add energy to village life here. Burton has been home to many interesting people over time. Figures such as John Wildman, an influential 17th century resident, and various landowners, soldiers and explorers are connected with it. Well, today, TVI will temporarily be a resident. Let's get going. Let's get started with the Methodist Chapel, which has one of the most detailed and well-recorded religious histories in Leicestershire. Its story begins in 1800 when 4 people applied at the Leicester Quarter Sessions for permission to hold Methodist services inside a private home. The 4 were Anne Harrison, Anne Cook, George Harrison and Alice Cook. The house in question stood close to where the Lion's Mouth Fountain is today, placing the earliest Methodist activity right in the centre of Burton. By 1802, 2 Burton residents, John Yeoman and John Blunt, became trustees of the new Methodist chapel in Wymeswold. Their involvement helped inspire the creation of a dedicated chapel in Burton itself, with support from the Methodists in East Leek. The chapel was built in 1809 on land described as fronting Town Street and measuring 10 yards by 9 yards. In 1846, the chapel was rebuilt, and the date plaque above the door commemorates this event rather than the original 1809 construction. The 1846 rebuilding gave the chapel the appearance it largely retains today. The structure seen now is a simple rectangular Wesleyan chapel built of mellow red and yellow patterned brick with a Welsh slate pitched roof and flat brick arches over the openings. Inside, the chapel once held wooden pews, a small pulpit and simple interior fittings. The chapel remained in active use until 1998, when services finally ended after 190 years of worship on the same site. This makes it one of the longest used religious buildings on the Leicestershire Wolds. Next, we have the Greyhound Inn, another one of the village's oldest and most historically important buildings. It appears in official records as early as 1818, when it played a central role in a major legal decision that reshaped the entire road layout of both Burton and Prestwold. In 1818, two justices of the peace met inside the Greyhound Inn, then run by Joseph Brown, to approve the diversion of several public highways around the village. This meeting directly led to the creation of the modern B675 and B676. Plans submitted by Charles James Pack of Prestwold and Charles Godfrey Mundy of Burton Hall proposed new routes that would improve travel and reshape the village centre. The final approval was confirmed at Leicester Castle a month later. Today, the Greyhound Inn continues to operate as a public house, maintaining a long tradition of hospitality. It offers home-cooked food, traditional real ales, and the inn's connection to Everard's brewery also links it to a long-established Leicestershire brewing tradition. So much like Wymeswold that you saw on Monday, Burton-on-the-Wolds is another noisy village because traffic flows through it along the road you can see behind me there. The Lion's Head water fountain was built in the mid-19th century, placing its construction firmly in the Victorian era. This period saw many villages introduce public water points, and Burton-on-the-Wolds chose a decorative design that combined usefulness with craftsmanship. The fountain stands on Melton Road, close to the centre of the village, and its position has remained unchanged since the time it was installed. It's been part of the village landscape for well over 140 years. The fountain is built from tooled ashlar stone. At the centre of the fountain is a semicircular arched recess which houses the cast iron lion head that gives the landmark its name. Water once flowed from the lion's mouth into a semicircular cast iron trough which still projects outward from the wall today. So next we have Burton Hall, which again has a detailed history, this time stretching back to the late 17th century. The story begins with Samuel Shallcross, a wealthy man who moved to the Wolds in 1700 and purchased land including a house once owned by Sarah Noon. He also bought cow pastures known as the 20 Acres, which lay at the eastern end of the parish near the Roman Foss Way. Shallcross's only child died young, and after the death of his second wife in 1713, his stepdaughter Anne Bushnell became his heir. Anne would marry Nicholas Mason of Walton, and their son William Shallcross Mason inherited the estate. William built a good house in Burton in around 1740 according to records, but that may refer to the manor house rather than Burton Hall itself. The earliest clear evidence of Burton Hall comes from John Throsby, who wrote in 1790 that John Noon, the nephew and heir of William Shallcross Mason, was building a new house pleasantly situated at the end of the village. That strongly suggests that Burton Hall was constructed in the late 18th century, possibly begun by Mason and completed by Noon. The hall's elevated position at the village's edge matches Throsby's description. Burton Hall is a Grade 2 listed building. The listing notes its location on Main Street and its significance as part of the village's heritage landscape. Although the exact construction date is uncertain, the building is generally dated to the late 18th or mid-19th century. In the 1818 road diversion plans, the hall appears clearly on maps drawn by Charles Godfrey Mundy, who owned the estate at the time. Mundy invested heavily in improving the hall, turning it into a fashionable country residence. Maps from the period show the hall with 2 wings, forming an H-shaped layout. Although one owner in the 1960s believed the wings were added in the 1840s, the 1818 maps prove they already existed by that date. In 1834, Burton Hall was placed on the market. It was the first time in nearly 150 years, and the lot included the 20 acres and a small manor house near the Methodist chapel. The sale marked a major turning point in the estate's history. Okay, from one hall to another, over the road, is the village hall. The village hall is next. This was built in 1909 when Handel Schofield, the head teacher of the local school, and Robert Seal, a farmer, decided that the village needed a proper building for events. Before this, gatherings were held in houses or barns, which were often cold and sometimes uncomfortable. Their first appeal for support took place in Seal's barn during a wet night, yet the response was positive enough to begin planning the project. A long list of donors helped fund the hall, including Sir Maurice Levy, MP, Mrs Perry Herrick of Bow Manor Park, and Captain Forrester of Saxelby Park. The most generous gift came from Lord Ernest St Maur, who surprised the organisers by offering £100, far more than they expected. He later agreed, along with the Duke of Somerset, to fund the construction of the entire building. The architect Norman Spence offered his services for free, and the builder, A. Fawkes of Loughborough, was chosen to carry out the work. During the First World War, the hall was closed and converted into a convalescent hospital for wounded Belgian and Canadian soldiers, paid for by Lord and Lady Ernest St Maur. After the war, it reopened again as a lively venue. Okay, parish notice board time. There we go. That is Burton on the Wolds done. Well, it is as far as that goes anyway. We're not finished with this walk. Back to the roundabout, right turn, and the school is next. Burton on the Wolds Primary School stands on Barrow Road and serves children aged 4 to 11 with a capacity of 210 pupils. There's around 197 currently enrolled. Although the exact founding date is not known, the school is closely tied to the early 20th century development of the village. The school's modern curriculum is built around the Kapow primary scheme, which focuses on inquiry-based learning and historical understanding. It's all overseen by Claire Wilson, who serves as head teacher these days. When Burton on the Wolds became the site of a Polish camp after the Second World War due to its proximity to RAF Wymeswold, the school served children from there. For years, it's also benefited from being near the playing field, and that's next. The playing field is known locally as Toll's Fields, and it began in 1970 when Mr. Leslie Toll, a farmer at Manor Farm, offered a field for the village to buy at a nominal price so that it could be turned into a recreational space. The offer was accepted, and residents helped clear stones from the land to prepare it for use. By 1973, the field was already being used by a football club, a cricket club, and a tennis club. The tennis courts were among the first facilities installed, followed by a short basketball court and cricket nets. At that time, the children's play area was very simple, with only a slide and swings. Over the years, new equipment was added and older items were replaced. A major upgrade came in 2006 when a project funded by 10 different sources raised £45,000 to build a large fenced play area. In 2011, adult fitness equipment was added with help from the manufacturer Kaloo. The field was further protected in 2012 when it was registered with Fields in Trust as a Queen Elizabeth II field, marking the Diamond Jubilee. Towles Fields is the home ground for the village's football teams, which play in the North Leicestershire League and the Charnwood Sunday League. The cricket club, now merged with Barrow Town to form Barrow and Burton Cricket Club, also uses the field for matches and training. Now, on the various maps that I use, there was a memorial marked on this field, but I couldn't find out what it was all about. So I thought, well, when I get to Burton, I'll go and have a look. Turns out it's a war memorial. It's a stone. Very unusual war memorial. You normally see like a cross or an obelisk or something, but here it's just literally a stone, and it just says, this stone is dedicated to all those affected by conflict. So it doesn't necessarily mean just the First and Second World Wars, it means any conflict, one would assume. Right, time to head for that patch of trees over there. That's next. Next, we have the Fish Pond Plantation, which used to be part of the Burton Hall estate. The grounds of the estate included woodland areas like this and were shaped during the estate's expansion in the early 19th century when the roads were diverted. In April 2004, the woodland that is now Fish Pond Plantation came onto the market, and local residents raised £12,800 within a week to help purchase it. Additional grants from Leicestershire County Council and Charnwood Borough Council completed the funding. The plantation officially opened on the 1st of May 2005, marked by a ceremony led by Councillor Peter Winkless, chairman of the County Council. This makes it one of the most recently secured public woodlands in the area. In here, there's an ice house, once linked to Burton Hall. It was built to store ice long before mechanical refrigeration existed. While the exact construction date is not known, ice houses on English estates were most common between the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Visitors today can still see the icehouse structure, which stands as a physical reminder of how food was preserved on the estate. Its brickwork, shape and position offer a clear sense of how it functioned. It adds a unique architectural point of interest to the plantation walk. Well, at least that's what I was led to believe, that there's an ice house in there, but I couldn't find it. It's if it is in there, then I'm sure it's worth having a look at, but I couldn't see it. Never mind, doesn't matter. Okay, we are now emerging into another residential area. And between here and the end of this walk, it's mainly all housing. So come with me and let's put the rest of Burton on the Wolds on the map before we drive away. The cemetery in Burton-on-the-Wolds is a small but historically important site that serves as the main burial ground for the parish. As the village grew during the 19th and early 20th centuries, the need for a local burial ground became clear. The cemetery was established to meet that need, and today it contains graves from different periods, including Commonwealth War Graves Commission burials. Paths run between the graves, and the ground is maintained by the parish council. The war memorial is in here. It lists 13 names and stands as a focal point for remembrance. The memorial is an important feature for visitors, especially those tracing family history or researching local military connections. To finish with, we have a drive to Six Hills on the parish boundary. This has one of the most unusual historic locations in the Wolds, and its story is far richer than its quiet modern appearance would suggest. The name Six Hills is actually a later form of Seg's Hill. It comes from the Anglo-Saxon personal name Sega or Seca. Despite the name, there are no hills here at all. The site sits on a high plateau around 350 feet above sea level, giving it a clear position on the landscape and making it a natural meeting point for ancient routes. The area is best known for its important road junction. Six Hill stands where the Roman Fosse Way crosses another ancient track, now followed by the B676 towards Long Clawson and the River Soar. Much of the modern A46 still follows the old Roman line. Six Hills has strong Anglo-Saxon connections. Historians believe it may have been a meeting place for local administrative gatherings known as moots. The pattern of parish boundaries around the site forms a wheel-like shape, with 6 hills at the centre, which supports that idea. The land around the crossroads was extra-parochial until the late 19th century, meaning it did not belong to any parish. That's unusual and adds to the site's historic importance. In theory, it still doesn't belong to anything because 6 hills is split between at least 2 modern parishes today. The site later became important for drovers. There was once an old inn here called the Durham Ox, a name often linked with cattle routes and overnight stops for herds being moved across the country. The inn changed its name to the 6 Hills Hotel in 1950 and was extended several times. Visitors today can still see the modern hotel on the same site. Stories from the mid-20th century describe families living at the inn, a poultry farm nearby, and even a tale of a dog stealing a dinner from the table, an amusing detail that adds colour to the area's more recent past. Time to head up the A46 and leave 6 Hills behind, and that's it for another run here in Charnwood. I'll be back again soon to tackle 2 more, and in the next episode I'll be touching on one of the most well-known but also controversial topics TVI will have ever covered.
From the Roman line of the old Fossaway
To the river Soar where the long fields sway,
Burton's name and a fortified farmstead strong,
a village on the Wolds where the days run long.
Grendon's monks work sheep on these lands,
Cattle on the pastures under steady hands.
the scribes wrote of 15 homes in 1086, a quiet place built of earth and sticks. Oh, Burton on the Wolds, where the old roads bend, from 6 Hills down to the Soar at the valley's end, where the stories rise from the fields and folds. There's a song in the lanes of Burton on the Wolds.
Burton Hall rose in 1780's light.
Shall cross his lantern grand and bright.
The road once ran through Brook Street's line,
Till 1818 pushed it south in time.
a fountain set into the village wall, brought clean spring water for one and all.
And the Abbey's fields, once wide and wild, still whisper the footsteps of every child. Oh, Burton on the Wolds, where the old roads bend, from 6 Hills down to the Soar at the valley's end, where the stories rise from the fields and folds. There's a song in the lanes of Burton on the Wolds.
When Wymeswold's runways roared through the night,
Burton House, the cruise in the fading light.
and after the war, in the huts they made,
Polished families found a place to stay.
1,000 years small, then the numbers grew, as the village changed and the houses too.
From the Lion's Head fountain's weathered face, to Towers Fields where the footballers chase.
Every lane holds a century's call, every stone remembers
just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.